What's going on, everybody? It's Ryan Harper Podcast. Still douchey. Right, Tommy? There we go. Anyway, so today's guest, we have Kristin Gerst, I was making fun of Kaylee McMahon. Well, not making me fun, but because everybody's a self-proclaimed, but I think you really are like the note queen.
The note queen?
Yes.
Even though there was a note queen before me.
I'm sure there's like 17 note queens currently.
Do you remember when you first called me that?
I don't know.
It was
just
up.
Like
it was
5
up
seconds
on,
ago.
It was up on stage for the first time. You introduced me that way. My first time speaking at a Propelio event, and then I'm like, I'm a princess, bitch.
Well, at least you know.
Us young people for hope.
At least you know your place. You're a princess. I want to be a princess too.
You are a princess.
I want to be the podcast princess.
The podcast princess.
Ooh, that's the new name of their show. I don't know if people would click on that if they were trying to get
hashtag podcast princess.
I know, trying to get like inspirational, motivational / businessy on whatever /
douchebag.
Exact. Thank you. But from a podcast called what do we call it?
The Ryan Harper
No,
podcast?
the podcast, the Princess Podcast.
The Princess.
Whatever we called it.
Princess Podcast.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to get into today with you, because you're like, what are we talking about? Like, I don't know. And one interesting thing I think we could get into, like a rabbit hole, would be the fact that you're a little bit different when it comes to notes.
I am.
And when it comes to note training, you don't necessarily, because we never talk ill of other people.
No.
Because that's wrong.
That is wrong.
But there are some dated programs out there. There's some dated strategies out there. And then like anytime anybody hears you speak, it's like, oh, that you can do that? So first of all, who are you? What do you do? Et cetera, et cetera.
Kristin Gerst, Capricorn Mortgage Investments. By the way, love this.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah, you got my pens out here. Very cool. I buy performing mortgage notes primarily in Texas. And the thing that makes me different than every other note investor that I know, every other note broker or anybody buying these notes, is that I'm willing to pay more for them. So I have a mentality of a lot of volume. Yes, my spread is small, but most note investors, they'll do 1 to 4 or 5 deals a year, and they're looking for those home runs. And you can make a lot of money, buying and selling mortgage notes. But, I'll go in and I'll make 3 to 5% on each of my notes, but I'll do several million a month. Mm-hmm. So, and that's the difference. And the way I have it set up is that, I have it set up where I teach investors, hey, this is a business model. You can sell almost all of these if you set it up correctly, and you can churn your money and churn your investors' money and, make it an actual business plan.
Right.
Having that pie in the sky, I'm going to, my owner finance buyer is going to refinance. Come on.
So what's the standard old school mainstream note buying business strategy?
Oh my gosh. Most of them, they'll tell you that the going rate for them is 70 cents on the dollar. Mm-hmm. So and I've guinea pigged it because all of a sudden somebody will put out a note class.
But the going rate, you're saying 65, 75.
70% of unpaid principal balance.
But you're talking about, because I know when it comes to talking to banks, you're doing like that 40 to 50 to 60%. But when you're talking to individual sellers, you're like, I'll go up to 95, 100, 105, 110.
Difference there,
et cetera,
performing
et cetera.
and non-performing.
Right.
So non-performing notes, that's a problem, right? You're gonna have to hold that. You're not gonna have any income coming in. You've got to pay for it with cash. You can't borrow money to do it, and then you've got to wait 3 to 6 months to foreclose on them. Mm-hmm. So that's a non-performing note, and that's why you get them so cheap.
But so why is it with performing notes that you can pay 100, 105, 110%?
You can't pay that much.
Okay.
Nobody pays that much.
Right.
And I hear that. Oh, and they're like, oh, I got 102, 103%. Like I had somebody call me out like at a meeting. They're like, I just sold my note for 103%, and I'm like, I would sell every piece of paper you have to that buyer. I'm never going to be able to come close to that. And I know that they're full of shit.
Right.
And it's just some real estate investor posturing. It comes down to simple mathematics. If you're, do banks out there pay 102? Yes. But that's because they're buying $500 million in paper. And if you've got, 50 of those notes that pay off in a month, you're still, making money on the whole, on the entire thing. Whereas if you're buying one or two, you're not going to pay 102% for that, because if it refinances or the property sells or it pays off in a month, you've just lost a bunch of money on that. So, and that's what, I love that urban myth out there, but that doesn't happen. So, but I typically try to pay 90 to 92. I can't always, sometimes there's poor payment history. They don't have third-party note servicing. They didn't do an RMLO packet. There's all sorts of things that go into a note, but if they follow all the rules and set up good paper, yeah, 90, 92% all day long.
Well, another thing that's funny with you, and I'm not sure if you're aware you do this, is like anytime, we all have ego, we all flex.
Right.
But anytime somebody's like, I've done 20 deals, 50 deals in the last quarter, you always laugh because you're like, I did 1,000 last quarter. So, and again, it's always funny.
I usually
to me.
I don't say that number. You heard that from somebody else.
Whatever. I know. It could be 12. It doesn't matter. But it's just funny because you're always like, you always chuckle. I know you chuckle, and maybe it's not publicly chuckling, but because when people try to flex the volume of play, it's like that's a pointless flex. You should be flexing the dollar amount that you've made, not the volume. But even then, it's like, I don't know. It's just a funny observation of you.
Because honestly, I don't need people to know.
Right.
Do I know that I'm good? I know that I'm good.
So just kidding, you did 8 last year.
8.
Just 8 total.
Just
because you don't want people to know what you do.
Yeah, no. It does it really matter at the end?
No.
No.
Well, that's one thing I'm always on a big kick about is A, no one cares.
Nobody does care.
And B, everyone's full of shit.
Anybody, and I just believe this. You show me, there was one guy on Facebook, and he literally opened up a cabinet, like in a video, right, that he was doing, and he showed off his stack of HUD ones. Okay, asshole, I can go print off some HUD ones. I got those, right?
Right.
But it's just like stacks of them. These are deals I did just, in the last couple months. No, you didn't. I mean, and it doesn't mean any of those closed. Anybody who stands there with a wad of cash flashing it, come on.
Right.
Usually it's the same guys who are posing in front of that private jet that they've never been on, that's not theirs, or on some fancy car that they were driving by a rich house and literally ran in and said, okay, snap my picture in front of this. It'll look like I live here and drive this car. But they don't. They're basically homeless,
right.
And they have no car. So
my favorite, and I've said this before, so I won't go into details, but it's like there's a Facebook meme lately where it's like, look at me, I'm a private jet, and then you zoom out, it's like a mall kiosk.
I saw that.
Yeah.
And the guy's in a tuxedo. It's like at a real estate conference or something like that. Yeah, no, it's funny. It's totally funny, and we get this so much, the posturing.
Yeah.
With real estate investors, I've just never understood it.
Yeah, and it is what it is, and I don't want to make every show that I've ever done ever to be about everyone's full of shit and everybody's posturing, everybody's trying to flex, but in some ways,
there's some legitimate, investors out there. But I'm running right now 3 distinctively different companies.
Yeah.
3, and then I've got, we'll call it consulting jobs, like wholesaling on the side. Mm-hmm. And it's a little untraditional wholesaling.
And then you teach and mentor for free with me.
Then I teach and mentor for free with you. Yeah. So, but again, it's, I've got a lot of activities going on.
But caveat to that, before people start flooding your inbox of, oh, well, if you're helping Ryan out for free, let's be clear here.
I get approached. I've had people offer me a lot of money to mentor them. I don't do private mentoring. I don't have time. And it's hard. I'd love to tell you, it would be great to have a bunch of little mini-me's following me around every day. Hell no.
Right. But how much money have I made you? That's what we should get into.
You've made me tons. Every time I do one of these, right? Every time I get on one of these, every time I go on stage at Propelio, anytime, go on stage anywhere, or Quest, or, yeah, all of a sudden I've got over the weekend performing notes. I've got 33 individual performing notes to go through this afternoon.
So why do you think that is? That because again, there's a lot of people in the note space. Is it because you're so knowledgeable? Is it because you're female? Is it because you're out there so much? Because
and we've talked about the female male thing.
Yeah.
Being female in this industry, it's a male dominated industry, and it's definitely not an asset. But my knowledge and experience with notes and just the understanding of how it works and how to set up, really how to run a profitable business and create a business plan. And so it's in everybody's favor, right? It's in the note seller's favor, because I think there's a lot of investors out there who, they're like, okay, well, I'm just going to get it for as cheap as possible. For me, I like to build a business, and a business on reoccurring clients and vendors. So, I've got to have buyers who love my product. So I've got to make sure it's good, perfect, and I will stand behind it and guarantee it. But I also have to make sure that my sellers. So if I buy notes and I'm only paying them 75, cents on the dollar, where's their incentive to come back, right? Because they've lost money. Whereas if I'm buying at 90, 92%, they've made money on this deal. They've got more money to go invest. They go do it again, and they come back to me.
Well, let's back up just because one of my buddies, Cassie Roma, is watching on LinkedIn, and she literally was like, I didn't even know the note space was a thing until recently. Keep in mind, she's out of Australia, New Zealand. I can't remember which one.
Okay.
But what is the note space, just to give her a quick hookup?
So the note space traditionally for decades has been a select group of older gentlemen, and they will, trade paper. I mean, it's always been a thing, but I created Capricorn back in 2015 as an answer to where do you take paper and actually get a decent price for it? Because I was sitting on this portfolio.
And what is paper, though?
Paper is mortgage notes. So this can be an owner finance mortgage note. It can be a bank originated note. I'll move bank performance, something that was originated by a small bank, and it's even sitting at 5 or 6%. I've got buyers for that stuff. Now, they want that 9 and 10% paper from me. So, and I just say paper, because I'm not buying a property. I'm never, I love, you always hear this from new real estate investors. What's your goal? Oh, my goal is to own all of DFW.
Freedom.
All of Dallas, Fort Worth. I'm going to own every piece of real estate there. And I hear it time and time again, and it makes me smile. It makes me laugh. For me, I'm like, oh, hell no. I'm like, I don't want to own real estate, period. I'm like, because every single one of like a piece of real estate that I own, it's a liability. It's not a complete asset. Whereas a mortgage note is an asset. I'm not, there's no chance that something's going to go wrong with that paper after it's created. It's created, it is what it is. So in 2014, I was director of marketing with Bay Mountain Capital, Dean Lantos, right? Mm-hmm. And he openly said to me, he goes, hey, I'll let you create
Switch the cameras. There we go.
He said, hey, I'll let you create, we could do an owner finance product, but it has to be something different than what we're, than our regular fund. And he said, but I need proof that there's actually a market, a secondary market for these notes, and that's when I started Capricorn in 2015, because I found, there is a market for these notes. However, I created a lot of that, finding the buyers that I found, not incredibly easy,
Well, so one thing that makes what's interesting to me though, is like when you talk to people, in real estate, there's niches. You got the fix and flip, you got the notes, you got the landlording, you got the commercial, et cetera, et cetera. But even within notes, you have other niches. You have non-performing and you have performing. And then even in like non-performing, you have even other niches. So like there's the niche of talking to the banks, and there's niche to talking to individual investors. So one thing, because I'm tiptoeing into this space, is the fact that by tiptoeing, I mean jumping in. With the banks, people are like, well, why would banks do that? And it's like there's a whole host of reasons of selling. And the same thing. So what I would like to get into is why would a bank sell their stuff? Why would an individual sell their stuff? And I don't know, go from there.
Well, that's a huge question. And, people are always like, why are they selling? Why are they selling this note? Why is so-and-so selling this note? Because they want to get their cash out of it, and whatever that is. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing with mortgage notes, once you understand the math behind it, you make money from day one on performers. So, I tell the story, and did I learn this after I started selling notes? I did. All of a sudden I was like, holy crap. I held this thing, for 8 months and I made like $9,000 just holding it. So why would a bank sell? A bank would sell because they've got too much debt on their books and they have to have enough assets, enough deposits to cover any of their toxic assets that they have there. They might not, if they know that there's a bank examiner coming in or they're in the middle of being audited or an inspection happening, they might want to unload a bunch of that stuff. They might need to unload a bunch of that stuff to keep their balance sheets where they need to be and keep their insurance.
Right.
A lot of times too, they figure out, if you've got a lot of this stuff, it can, and your focus is spread, right? Because it's not an individual investor focused on one property. It's a bank focused on $30 million going bad, right? How do you focus on every single one of those without, you've got to know that some of those are going to slip through the cracks. And so what they find is they lose less money and it's cheaper for them just to sell it out without having to go through all of, the hassle of waiting for those back payments and then foreclosing on them. And then the risk that the house is vandalized and there's a bunch of rehab. It's, it's crazy because once a house is vandalized, they get even less for it than, what they, were thinking when they foreclosed. And so mathematically they figured out that it's just a better deal for them to just sell them as non-performers.
Right. And then even then it's like you have the political situation as well, not political, but in the sense that there's bad press already with that bank, and they don't want to be the ones that foreclose on the lowly citizen, whatever. So it's like, you know what? Let's just cut our losses, move on,
right?
And let Joe Schmo investor be the bad guy.
Yeah, let asshole investor over here be the one to foreclose on them and put the person out of their house.
Yeah, exactly.
There's great deals. And that's why I love the note space, because there really, a lot of people don't know it exists. Yeah. And when I start putting out, a lot of times people come up to me and goes, I have all these owner finance notes. I didn't even think I could sell them. And people don't realize that,
they can't, and they should only call you or me.
Exactly.
We're the only ones that can help you with that situation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
No one else
until you've had like a mortgage. I had a mortgage with Bank of America, this one, and it got sold 3 times in a year. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, now I make my payments somewhere else now. And you just have to know, where that goes.
So Daniel and I did a sub-2 deal in December of 18. Mm-hmm. And literally in the middle of the sub-2 deal, like that note got sold off to another mortgage company. And then, when there's I don't know if it's a standard thing, but they gave the owner of the property like a 30-day or a 60-day transfer thing, mm-hmm. just to get used to the new company. So
it's 60 days by law.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, 60 days
by
law.
So thank you. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was just like, all I know is I got into a sub-2 deal and was about to make a mortgage payment, and then like, oh, you don't have to. Well, that was good timing. Because it's like the whole point of doing a sub-2 deal is so you don't have to pay, you don't have to close, and all you got to do is just do the carry, and then on the note, and all of a sudden there's no carry. So it's like, oh, well, that was
nice.
That was advantageous.
It also goes.
We planned that, by the way.
So it can also, those sub-2 deals like that can also go wrong if you're not still in communication with that seller.
Right.
Because once those get transferred, then you don't have, depending on how your power of attorney is written. So I've known investors who have actually lost the houses because those notes got sold somewhere around. They weren't notified. They didn't even know who had the note. By the time they tracked down who had the note, who the note had been sold to, too late. And, all of a sudden it's going to foreclosure.
I don't know. To me, it goes back to like when it comes to real estate, it's still the wild, wild west in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, it's, we have all these regulations that we have to follow, but it is. I mean, you get into this.
Well, that's why like some of the bigger players are so fearful of the smaller players, because like this business that they've built where they have all a team around them, they have a lifeblood around them, like their entire existence is based off this industry, off of a certain way of doing things ethically or whatever. And then you've got new blood coming to the business going, oh, we'll just do it this way. And they're scared shitless that they're going to do something stupid that triggers some congressperson, some senator to come in and just regulate the hell out of the business.
So you're saying that that's why they're afraid of...
I would be afraid
of newcomers coming in and
that
shaking
and competition,
stuff up.
but I would say mainly the regulation side of things.
I'm for my Airbnb business, I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned with, crappy Airbnb landlords who don't give a shit who they rent to. And, Dallas, we are, all of mine are located in Dallas, and I'm fortunate because Dallas is very much hands off of everything. But, there's a lot of people that I see what they're doing, and I'm like, just do it right. Be conscious of your neighbors. Try to make everybody happy, because all of a sudden enough complaints and the laws are going to change. As far as with notes, it's not, is it regulated on buying and selling notes? No. I can't imagine how somebody could all of a sudden bring a bunch of regulations down on us. I don't know. As far as the regulations on owner financing, setting that up, I think they're a good thing.
Well, yeah, like the Dodd-Frank, Armelo, that stuff.
Requiring them to be underwritten, yes.
Yeah.
Requiring them to be licensed by a third-party note servicer. I don't know that that's a law yet, but it should be. That one, even over an RMLO.
Right. Well, again, I'm not an attorney, but I think if you're doing over 2 deals in a year or something that you need to pay attention, I'm okay with that.
I agree. But is it 2 or is it 5?
It's something that's so small.
Yeah.
That's like, if you're only doing like 1 or 2, like if you're a mom or pop and it's clearly probably not even an investment thing, it's more of a family thing. It's almost like the government doesn't care.
I think the law is, though, and I hear this excuse, right? And I'm like, no, the law says you have to underwrite every single one of your buyers. Now, whether it's a licensed RMLO
right.
or you take all of this documentation, you still have to underwrite your borrower. Where it gets into, I think, the 5 deals a year, that's when you have to go get licensed yourself.
I'm referring to the RMLO aspects of things.
Yeah. So, I mean, but after 5 a year, you need to go get your own, RMLO license. So, just making sure that, you're in compliance. But still, what did I buy last week? Contract for deeds in Texas. Do you know how long those have been illegal? Since like the 80s. You can't do contract for deed here. And yet I just, bought 3 that are, non-performing.
Let's get into that, because contract for deed, because it's illegal, we don't really talk about much in Texas.
And you can do contract for deed other places in the nation. And
now you're just saying, oh, I just did it. By the way, come get me. I mean.
So, and people are like, so you're going to buy that? Only because the properties were long abandoned and they hadn't made payments for like 6 years. So that's the difference. I'm looking at that going, okay, we're probably not even going to be able to track these people down, right? They're not even going to know it's for getting foreclosed on. They probably won't even care.
Or they know the house exists at all.
No. But contract for deed, you still have to go legally foreclose on that. And that's the misnomer. People are like, well, I want to do a rent to own or contract for deed because I don't want to have to record the warranty deed and the deed of trust. I don't want to have to record this and let everybody know what's going on. And I'm like, you still have to go foreclose on this property. So
quick question, subtle plug and question.
Yeah.
Do you personally have a resource for, like, on CapricornMortgage.com, whatever the website is, like, for these types of things, like because contract for deed, NPNs,
like a resource on explaining the difference between all of them?
Just like a quick glossary, because I know we're just flying through things, and normally, and in a past life, I would be like, well, let's explain that, because we went to A to B to C to really get it. Like, I want to be meaty and I want to be teaching.
Well,
but
NPNs,
now I'm like,
right?
just keep going. I don't care.
So I don't, but you know what? I will get it.
It's a good idea.
I'll like make myself a note here and go, hey, glossary.
I think that's easy, because I think that would be smart. That way, when you do get in interviews like that, and somebody's like, hey, why don't we get into that? And you're like, well, let's not. Just go to my website. I'd rather get into the juicy stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because this thing is being in this business for as long as you have, as long as I have, whatever, I may not be an expert or even have done any of the things you've said.
Right.
I at least know what it is.
Right.
You know, so it's like, anyway.
No. And that's a good point. I mean, so yeah, NPNs, non-performing notes.
Yeah.
But, you know, most of what I deal with are performing mortgages.
Right.
And the amount of investors that are in the performing note space, like myself, I'm really the only one, right? I don't have competition, which is a nice thing. I see names thrown up, you know, on Facebook. Usually if somebody goes, oh, who's buying performing mortgage notes? I've got an owner finance note for sale. My name is almost the first one that people will mention in those streams, right? But then there's other ones that are popping up now. But I'm pretty fairly sure that they can't compete with me price-wise, and they're still going to be down at that 75 to 80% max.
But is it Kristin Gerst buying it, or is it Kristin Gerst the representative of a bunch of hedge funds? Are you brokering?
Yes.
Do you have a fund?
It's all of
above.
it, all of the above. So some notes are kept in my portfolio. Some notes I'll keep and I will participate it. So a lot of people know that I'm quote unquote crowdfunding notes is basically what it boils down to. I'm doing it differently than most people will do something like that. You know, if you are going to buy part of a note with me, your name is recorded on that assignment. And it says exactly what your percentage of ownership is and how much you make every month per that note.
Well, Alexi was asking earlier, like in terms of, and it's a broad question, like, but how much can you make in this business, like per deal? And I know it's a broad question because it's like, it's the same thing in single family going, well, how much can you make on a bird dog fee, a assignment fee, a flip fee, a landlord fee? So I think you could almost take that over the same equation here, because there's still referrals, there's still bird dogs, there's still assignments, there's still all that stuff.
So my goal is to make around $5,000 per transaction. You know, and that covers my overhead, because I have overhead. I've got people who work for me. Everybody's got their own assignment. I have a personal assistant who, you know, goes through documents and then organizes them into a file. I've got a legal secretary who reviews this stuff. I've got another company that I order BPOs from. If I'm not, you know, a lot of times when I'm looking at it, I just use Propelio software, you know, and one of my assistants will run comps on it, you know, and then I'll look at the comps and go, okay, you know, everything gets put into a spreadsheet for me.
Try Propelio.com.
Propelio.com.
No. Try Propelio.com. That's my affiliate.
Is it? Is that really your affiliate?
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Very nice.
You like that?
I do like it.
I'm going to be affiliate the hell out of everything.
I don't blame you. I would too. Yeah. So it's, you know, I've got overhead. So I try to make $5,000 per deal. Do I? No. One thing that...
But it averages out, because you may make $2,000 here and $20,000 there in the long run.
Yeah. Usually it's not $20,000 per note. My margins just aren't that big. They're just not. One thing that I'm very different in the note space, and I don't know why this is. So there were a couple guys that were doing kind of what I'm doing when I came on, 5 years ago. And the one common practice was the bait and switch in the note industry. And I hate that. You know, I hate just negotiating with somebody in bad faith. And it just drives. I mean, I won't do business with them.
Bait and switch
where somebody will come in, and you see this all the time in the note industry. Even now, like, so I'll test it out. Like if somebody has a note class, and then all of a sudden that next week I will have no fewer than 25 or 30 letters every day in my inbox, and they're all usually the same script. So like 2 years ago, I was like, all right, let's see what these other guys are offering, right? And I know that this is all coming from one group, right? They've all gotten together, and so now they're all bird dogs for this one group. They all said, I'm like, okay, well, I'm looking for 100% of UPB. I don't even sell at that. So, it's not going to happen, right? And all of them were like, oh, that shouldn't be a problem, or maybe, I can probably do 95%. Every single offer came in within 2% of each other. It was either like 65 to 67% of unpaid principal balance. Every single one of those offers. And we're talking 40. And I'm like, so you all are telling me, I go through this, I send you all of this information. You're telling me that I'm going to get, 90, 95%. And then you come back and it's 65 to 67%. I mean, it was obvious that these people all came from the same group. And then they were all told what to offer, what would be accepted, yada, yada, yada. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. So that's one thing I will never, if I'm thinking, okay, yeah, this is a $5,000 deal, but then all of a sudden, one of my hedge funds comes back and says, hey, I'm not, we can't pay that much on this one because of XYZ on this paper. As long as I'm making money, I'm going to close the deal.
Right.
And I will not go back and renegotiate. And I've had to a couple times and said, guys, I can't do this because, this is really bad. And this is the most I've gotten offered.
Speaking of making money, one thing that I think surprised a lot of people in our last class that we did was the fact that you're not like a deal sponsor like a multifamily world, but if people have money, you're like, I'll place the hell out of that.
Absolutely.
So
and I place small amounts, like multifamily, right. You need a minimum 100, 200,
50, 100K,
yeah, to get started. For me, I this was the answer. So, I'm at Quest a lot, and they said, we need products created for these small balance IRA holders. And I'm like, so you need me to figure out $5,000. They're like, well, can you buy a note for $5,000? Yeah, non-performing. But if you want just your money to be working for you and you don't want to do any effort on it, placing $5,000, I'm like, so that's how I came up with, participating in a note.
So the reason I bring that up is because Alexi's watching. He's like, I'll invest money with Kristin. So he didn't ask what the minimum was, but there you go. So the minimum is
5,000. In fact, I'm sending out later today. I've got 2 new ones that I'm sending out. And
so what's an email that Alexi can shoot you an email to be
the easiest one is info@capricornmortgage.com.
There you go.
So it comes to my personal email. I have it forwarded into Kristin at capricornmortgageinvestments.com.
You could Venmo me $1 for everyone that comes from. I'm just kidding.
You're so not kidding.
I know I'm not. Dude, I'm self-employed now.
Mention Ryan Harper when you send me an email. Hey, I saw you on the Ryan Harper show, so I can Venmo him his
Ryan
$1.
S. Harper, Venmo me $1.
Venmo me $1.
So another is so on LinkedIn, Lindy Chapman actually brings up something really cool. She was saying she was at Inman Connect in New York last week, and she is curious if the millions flooding into the finance into finance new disruptor financing models are a challenge to your business. I'm not familiar with the hell she means by that. Do you know what she's talking about?
So that doesn't directly hit my niche. My niche is 9 to 10% performing mortgage notes, primarily Texas, because Texas is so easy to foreclose, so they're so easy to move. Do I sell nationwide performers? I do. And I'm going to start branching out marketing to especially neighboring states, Oklahoma especially, Missouri is another one, just states where I know that it's also easier to foreclose, where I do have a lot of demand, for those performing mortgages. I'm going to start more marketing up there. But no, people, I've been around since 2005. I remember what it was like when the mortgage market, the mortgage meltdown in 2008. I made it through. I didn't lose a single property. I didn't bankrupt or any of that. Did I survive unscathed? No. It was painful, and I had some losses like you wouldn't believe, but I got through it and got over it. Everybody's like, well, what's going to happen in the next one?
Right.
What happens when the economy does go down? I don't know the answer to that, so I wasn't in the note space. I didn't see what happened. I can tell you that even with the mortgage meltdown being over bad mortgage notes, that's what took it down, right? It was subprime mortgage notes, which let's be honest, owner finance is like the replacement, is, the answer to subprime mortgages. Even though I'm in that space back in 2008, mortgage-backed securities didn't stop for one day. Purchasing, buying and selling of mortgage-backed securities did not even halt for a minute during the mortgage meltdown crisis.
Well, the thing is, though, even with that, like if you go to locations, it's location specific as well. Because like South Lake, Texas, West Lake, Texas, they actually grew in 2008.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And I think we know that Frisco and Prosper and all of those are, even if we crash tomorrow, those cities are going to continue to go up just with all the economy out there. So, with all this money flooding the market, no.
So, but what, and forgive me if you answered it, but I just didn't hear it. And you know me, I'm
right.
a little slow at time. What did she mean by disruptor financing models? Like, I don't know what that means.
Well, there is a lot of money flooding.
It's just, hey, we're just going to throw money at the problem.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing.
If there is a problem.
Right. Those are really big buyers, right? And so they're going after the big contracts. So,
they
banks
use words like tranche.
Well, yeah, tranches.
I saw that in a movie.
Right. Well, it was a great movie. Yeah. That one is great, right? Because they dumb down explanations on what all this stuff is. You're talking about very large banks. So like I have a contact over at Goldman, right? His minimum check for real estate is $40 million. Minimum check.
Commission or to purchase?
To purchase, right? So if I had $40 million in paper, he's my guy that I call. Do I ever have $40 million at one time? No. I'm scratching together $2 to $5 million. So my buyers are they're the guys who sell to the Goldmans out there, right? They're buying and doing hundreds of millions of dollars in paper, combining it all up, taking my stuff, raising their yields of their portfolios and selling to the large banks like that and creating MBS, but mortgage-backed securities.
Before I forget, I just wrote down, ask me later. I have a line on a 45 house package.
Lovely.
But it's not the notes. I think it's the actual
houses,
yeah.
That's okay too. Yeah, that's fine.
But that's why I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that you do that.
Oh yeah. I'm negotiating a $4 million land deal this afternoon at like 12. So 12 or 1.
Are you are you brokering
I'm the broker.
it?
I'm the broker.
Do you already have a buyer and everything?
I have a buyer and seller.
Oh, nice.
It's been going on for, it's going to be multifamily. So it's been going on for about 4 or 5 weeks.
Where's that?
Fort Worth.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, 2 sellers, one buyer. No, I'm working on it for like 6 weeks, but it's like 4 million. Yeah. So it's not small, but anyways, yeah, no, as far as, you ever seen the movie War Dogs? Remember this? Okay. Jonah.
I read the Rolling Stone article though.
Okay. So War Dogs say they got their start, right? Because he said, you've got all these government contracts, right? And it's all public. And he goes, all of these big guys are going after this big stuff, right? These $100 million deals. He goes, but what we're going after are the crumbs, these small deals that are here. So what she's talking about, yeah, is there, all this money being flooded? Yeah, but it's for these really big dogs, for these big portfolios where there is a huge amount of profit to be made.
So in a lot of ways, it's kind of like when people start talking about the iBuyers and the threat of iBuyers being, like the internet type buyers, like Zillow's with Open Doors. Oh, they're going to come into the business and they're going to take over. It's like timeout. Because even when Zillow came out, I think a year ago, saying, oh, we're going to start purchasing, they were like, we're going to do 10,000 houses. And it's like, well, let's think about it. 10,000 houses nationally is nothing.
Right.
10,000 houses in Dallas, that could be a threat.
Right.
But nationally?
Yeah.
No.
No, and I love people who are like, oh, you're such a big deal in the note world. Really? I am such a small fish. I'm literally nothing. I'm a blip I'm a blip on the screen. And, people get impressed with what, how much I move and how much I can move. I have more demand for what I have than I can get paper.
So here's what annoys me about that sentiment of being a big fish, a small fish. And the reason, and let me preface by saying it's annoying because I don't think people have perspective.
Right.
So you take you or I, our sphere of influence is, some people might think it's big, but other people say it's minuscule. Then you go up and you've got like some of the guys out of Phoenix, and they've got some larger spheres of influence. And then you got like a Max Maxwell. He's got his 150,000 subscribers on YouTube. He's got his sphere of influence. Then you've got somebody like a Grand Stefan who's got like a million followers, subscribers on YouTube, and even anyway, influence. But Think Realty, I and don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure they did a study or of some sorts where do you know how many investors are in the United States according to them?
No, I don't know that number.
Just take a guess.
Like investor, like active, like
just
like me, or like
no, no one's like you.
Well, come on. I'm somebody who, I'm a workaholic. I don't ever stop or sleep.
Somebody that invests in real estate.
I have to imagine that number's huge.
But what's huge?
I don't know, a couple million people?
Yeah, 2 million.
I'm not surprised by that number because, how many people do we run into and they're like, oh, I'm a real estate investor.
I
they
own
did
a 10-unit complex. You're like, but you're a hairstylist. Yeah, but I bought it 30 years ago.
Yeah. Or, I invest in real estate and they did like one flip like 3 years ago.
But
so that happens.
My point to bring that up is the fact that you've got 2 million investors and people talk about being big fishes or spheres of influence when it's like, if I had 10,000 following me, I'd be pretty damn happy.
Right.
But 10,000 compared to 2 million is nothing. 100,000 is a ton of people, but compared to 2 million is nothing.
Right.
So it's always funny when people try to puff their chest or this and that, or even when they have that, they thrust celebrity on you.
Right. But, I love to talk about, so my brother, which I'm not going to name the bank that he's a managing director at, but it's one of the big ones. I'll just tell you that. And the guy's cool. But I'm sitting, this is like a couple of years ago, and I was so proud, right? Because I was like in the middle of this $5 million, note package. And he goes, look at you, so cute with your $5 million deal.
Yeah.
He's doing mergers and acquisitions with like billion-dollar companies. And so he's like, ooh, 5 million. He won't even get out of bed for $5 million.
Well, that's why it's like, for me, when people talk about that stuff, it's like, yes, it's really cool. Yes, that's awesome, but I don't care.
I know.
There's always somebody bigger.
Somebody bigger. There's always somebody with more money. There's always somebody with more deals coming in.
To me, it's like, are you a cool person? Are you a dick? Do I enjoy talking to you?
Right. And let's also be clear. I can't do all of this volume and do I do a lot of wholesale deals? Yeah. And people are like, how many do you have currently going on? Wholesale, like just wholesale, like REO wholesales. I don't know, somewhere in the range of about 40 I've got right now. So people are like, you're moving that much nationwide? Yeah. Then, and I know I also owe you lists of all of those rental, like, because I've got these rental property packages.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
I'm really busy. I'm really busy.
Miss not queen of follow-up. Miss queen of leaving a shit ton of money on the table. That's what you're the queen of.
I am.
So context.
I know.
Mid-December, late December, we're talking and you're like, oh, by the way, I'm really busy. I have this 100 package deal, whatever, or you have a huge deal. And I'm like, well, send it to me. I know people. Let's whatever.
Because I suck.
You do.
I suck.
Yes. So, I love you still though.
So I don't have.
Did you do anything with that yet? Were you still waiting to click send to me so I could do it for you?
It's no. I've got. Oh, thank you for that one.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting to hear back from the seller on that one, just to see what they're willing to do.
Got it.
because they're overpriced and unreasonable right now. So I don't want to waste I'm not going to waste my time and then other buyers' time. So, and I've just learned that waiting a couple weeks, not calling, not doing anything with the seller,
not being thirsty, not being desperate. Wow, they come calling back. They do every time. And I'm like, okay, now we're ready. Now we're ready to actually negotiate. So, but doing all these deals and all that, I could not do that without a team under me. I partner with a lot of people. You know, I know you've been talking a lot about how to scale a business, not doing everything yourself. I would say, you know, the number one book, and I'm rereading it right now, is The E-Myth. And I tell everybody, if you're really looking to build a business, to actually, you know, I set forth when I started Capricorn, I didn't know what I was doing. I really didn't, 2015. And I'm going, I know this is there, but how do I do this? And it was like, I'd have a lunch and learn and I'd get a note and then I'd sell a note. And I'm like, and then next month, okay, we'll do another lunch and learn. I'll educate some, mom and pop buyers. Okay, I got a note and then I sold a note. And I'm like, this is not a freaking business. This is not a company. This is not scalable doing this, right? I've got to find bigger pockets, where I can get basically a blank check, know what they're looking for, and then find these mom and pops by just, marketing to people to give me this paper. Yeah.
And that's scalable, right? And so how do you take what you're doing and go from a guy with a truck or a mom and pop, doing one deal a year to an actual company where you're scaling this stuff?
Well, and it's funny because it's Casey Della talks about all the time about working on your business, not in your business.
Correct.
And what's interesting is with me is I've repeatedly been accused of just trying to do it yourself. But that in the same token, I've been accused of never doing any work and always getting somebody else to do the work. So it's a weird dichotomy. So let me explain. So I was always in the previous employment, always got in trouble for trying to take everything on. But the reality was there wasn't a budget to outsource anything.
Correct.
So it's kind of like being in trouble for not managing a team, but there's no team to manage and there's no budget to hire the team. But in the same, but in the same context, literally being approached by I literally heard this 2 weeks ago at a meetup. Teresa Riney, she's looking at me and she's like, because I don't know what the content of the conversation was, but it was basically saying, "You're full of shit. When we worked together, you didn't do anything. You outsourced everything." I'm like, but that's what I was supposed to do. How dare you? But that's what I was supposed to do. So it's funny is in one hand I get in trouble for not doing it, but it's just funny because that was the job.
So nobody would ever say that I don't actually do things,
of course,
inside my companies, right? Driving down here, I had a conference call with my assistant in non-performing note and REO nationwide acquisition.
Right.
So I had just a call with her, right? And we've got our week planned out. So she's working, and then she gave me my to-dos that, she's like, okay, this is the guy. She's just like, he's not going to talk to me. So I need you to send him an email, follow up with him. He's got tons of stuff. And I'm like, okay. Right. And so that's on my to-do list. She doesn't have the name. She doesn't have the company behind her to back her up. So I have to step in and do those things when they come available.
Right.
Nobody can replace me on something like this. Nobody can replace me, when I'm, on stage talking or teaching something. But can I have somebody, if I find that if I can put any task that I'm doing that I can break into 5 steps, that's outsourceable. And I try to do as much of it, right now, so I started, this is a new gig for me, and it goes with my Airbnb company, right? So I've got 4 of my own personal Airbnbs here in Dallas. I completely manage those 100% myself. I don't need somebody else there. Now, do I have a team under me? Do I have processes in place so that I can be anywhere in the world and do that? Yes, absolutely. I've got people that are available that I can pay to run over if something needs to be done in person, but most of them don't, right? And I've got a cleaning company and all of that. Now I'm starting to manage for somebody else, right? And I've told them the same thing. I travel a lot. So, I can run this company from anywhere. But getting these things up and going, there's a lot. I mean, I've got to be present on these properties to figure out how does everything work? I got to put these books together that say, okay, this is what the Wi-Fi is. This is how you turn on the fireplace. Do you want to heat up the hot tub? Great. Here's the directions to do that.
So on the process mapping, is that your strength or is that a chore, or do you enjoy it?
I wouldn't say I enjoy it, and it's hard. But I would definitely say it's a strength of mine, and it's become a strength of mine. And anybody who is, are you an individual? And, if I was just an individual, I would not have time to do, a tenth of the things that my companies accomplish. I'm president of these companies because I'm overseeing and I assign these things to people. However, I'm a big believer that if I'm going to know that process inside and out and design it, I first need to know how to do it myself. And so if it's something brand new, I don't know, doing, research, like when I'm sending people out, okay, I need you to compile a list of this. Well, I first need to tell them step A, B, and C, and D to do it. And in order to do that, I need to figure it out myself first.
So when you say if something can be broken down into 5 steps, you outsource it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does that include like processes, or is it just literally like move ET to here? That's step 1.
Yeah.
But could you say, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, are you able to hire C-level people?
Yes.
That then they oversee people that do the 5 steps?
Yes. I mean, depending on how much you needed to do, how busy is that one section going to be? Can one person handle it? Do you need 2? I have a data mining project going on right now. I hired 6 people to do it. Mm-hmm. 6 different people to do the exact same type of data mining. And it was just broken up in chunks. Why? Because I wanted the job done faster.
Right.
So I'm not going to go, okay, if I give it to this one person, great, but it'll take, 2 months to get it done. I give it to 6. I can get this thing back in, the whole thing completed in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that's, it just depends on every single task and what you're doing and what the project entails.
So to back up a second and pivot all at the same time, you do a lot. You do. It's all real estate.
It's all real estate.
But so many people are like, I'm the Airbnb person. And I know your main notoriety is in the note space.
Right.
But you do all these other things.
Right.
Is it because you get bored, or is it because or is it just like you have so much faith in yourself, you're like, look, there's an opportunity, I'm going to make that money?
Honestly, I remember 12 years ago, I remember what '08 felt like. I remember what it was like to be poor and to be, I wasn't bankrupt, but I was in the hole just shy of $400,000. No. I know. Yeah. After the market collapse, that was what, on my own personal credit. And that's not talking mortgages. That's no mortgages. That's just personal debt from losses suffered when the market crashed. That's a hell of a lot of money. I worked my ass off. And it took me a year and a half, 2 years to get that gone. Mm-hmm. I remember what that was like. And so, those 2 years and even for years after that, I never said no. I'm like, okay, you need that done? Cool. Yep, I can sell that.
So I never knew that, though. Not everybody has their adversity stories. And I'm guessing if I was more curious, I probably would have come to that conclusion myself. But to hear that the main reason that you're diversifying so much is because you lived that '08 crash it's obvious, like, well, no shit, but nobody else has said it like that.
Right.
No one else is going, oh, because you can have diversity of investments.
Right.
But you're not just doing diversity of investments, you're doing diversity of businesses.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, oh, that's pretty damn smart.
Having multiple tracks means, because we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what 2020 is. I think it's going to be a good year. I really do. I think it's going to be a great year. But what happens if Notes, takes a shit at the end of the year? All right, well, I've still got businesses in my Airbnbs. I'm still, rocking and rolling in, wholesaling REOs, and also I'm building up more of my own personal owner finance portfolio this year. I've got, so I've got my owner finance business. Then I've also got non-performing notes, performing notes, wholesaling REOs, wholesaling rental properties, which are always fun, and all of those. I mean, it all kind of ties in together. The nice thing is that I have a company and processes set in place. So if somebody sends me a deal, I can go tackle it. Mm-hmm. If there's a lot of things too that I just I'm like, you know what, that's not really my thing. And I'm like, and instead of waste time on it now, I just kind of send it off to somebody. Maybe they'll send me, a present. Maybe they won't, and it's fine. But I'm just like, you know what, here's somebody who I know can handle that. So
going back to the crystal balls, because in the past 2 weeks of being in here, it's come up in a couple occasions. Somebody was saying that they think the next correction or crash or whatever you want to say is going to be based off of tech.
I actually don't.
I think
it's debt.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Is another opinion would be the personal debt, like because student loans. I forgot the stat, but like the amount of personal debt that the average American has right now is insane.
Yeah, but it's not. People always talk about student loans, but I mean,
I'm just talking about
that's a government liability. It really is. That's government owned debt.
I'm just meaning personal debt.
No, correct. Where I think the biggest liability is, and a lot of the big banks, the ones that got into trouble, we lost, like the Bear Stearns and, all of those back in 07, 08. They have a large holding in those payday cash loans. Have you seen them? They're everywhere. Title loan places.
I've seen those, but I had no idea that the big banks had anything to do with those.
There is, because they're very, very high yield, but they're completely risky. There is so much of that out there.
And the big boys back those?
They got a lot of it. They buy it. They buy it.
They buy the debt.
They buy the debt.
Is it because is it a non-performing debt or is it just a high risk debt?
It's a high risk debt.
And therefore, that instead of getting 2%,
some of them have a lot. We go back. People forget, and especially because you're talking to a lot of people who weren't around in 08. They don't remember. I was there 5 years or since 05, right? January 05 was when I first officially called my start date, even though I really probably started a year before that. Mm. But January 2005 was when I made my first actual purchase, and closed on it. I saw 2.5 years before the market crashed. And so you're seeing these precursors to what's going to take it down. What I'm shocked at is how we're going back to the old ways of lending, even on mortgages. You've got people out of Florida right now who are doing ninja loans again. Ninja loans. And hey, I still have one of my ninja loans left. One, from, I think I got it in 2007. And again, I was a good risk, but they didn't know that. I literally got 20 loans, 20 personal loans, personal mortgages that I wrapped, 20, with no numbers on that application. Not a single number. You were not allowed to put a number on the bank application. And I'm looking at my mortgage broker, who, I don't know if you know him, he's Neil Merritt. He ended up leaving his private business and going and running the New Western Acquisitions hard money side. Great guy, love the guy. But I looked at him, I'm like, how is this legal? How is this even a thing? Right? Okay. And he goes, Well, it is. They're doing it. I kid you not, like August of 2008, the bank that loaned me all that completely shut down and went out of business. I mean, it was just like a fraud shop, right? But here I am. I've got these loans now, and it's like a marketable thing. And so all of a sudden, all these loans are owned by somebody else.
But that goes into that question of just because it's legal, should you be doing it versus, because again, it's like, and that's a whole.
They went out of business.
Well, it's a giant conversation of just because it's legal, does it make it ethical? Does it make it sound? Is it,
They're doing them again. Yeah. I don't get it. Was I paying a higher interest rate for those? Not really. I mean, 6.5%, 7% when you've got like 20 loans, you've got all these mortgages on your credit. Jesus, I would hope that they would give me like 7%. I hope I wouldn't be getting like 4.
Right.
That's ridiculous. But yeah, no, they're doing this stuff again. So
because of those risks of the personal debt crushing the entire American system, whatever, do you recommend, or would you recommend somebody who's like, oh, I want to get into the real estate niche? Should they focus on one or should they dabble?
Focus on one. Absolutely focus on one.
That's right.
Yeah. That's a huge mistake that most make. They don't do what they're good at. So like for all of my companies, the one that I market, but I'm not cold calling and sourcing deals. I have people who do that for me. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge difference. What are my skills? Working with buyers. So I have, we'll call them partners or, assistants or whatever you want to call them. They bring me product and then I sell it.
To be clear, they bring me product and I give you the product so I could daisy chain that shit.
That's right. Basically. But you're basically setting up the same thing, right?
Trying to.
So again, I have people who, they source this stuff. They know that I've got avenues and buyers for all of this. So, I'm a good source for somebody going, okay, I know she's got it. She's got the end buyers. She's got her own personal money. This is something that she might want to buy. I'm just going to call her and say, hey, this is what I've got. Do you know how much of that stuff I get every day? It's a lot.
So that's the whole point of my new meetup.
I
don't know if you saw that email.
Yeah,
yet.
I did. It was like,
deal maker
mixer.
I don't know. I just came up with a random name. But the whole point of it is because at the Propellia event, you had really cool stuff going, presentations, really cool stuff going in the sponsor area. But then the really cool people were in the lobby area, just networking the hell out of it.
Right.
So what I'm trying to do is recreate just that portion of it.
The lobby. So
of the lobby.
So you're doing a real estate investor social club.
No.
Kinda.
You
giving free drinks?
I'm giving an open bar.
Yeah, and there's food.
No food.
No food.
No food.
No more Chick-fil-A.
No Chick-fil-A,
dude.
There's art.
Yeah,
No.
Again, I've got, and so I have.
Are you mad at me?
No.
Are you giving me some shade because I
will just always give you crap when I can.
Look, you've got your thing.
I do. I'm seriously,
doing my thing.
If anybody's out there watching, I'm getting emails like every day and texts going, when's the next Real Estate Investor Social Club?
Because, on February 20th at my event.
Yeah. So I have been a little swamped. And so I just with picking up these new Airbnbs that I'm managing, because they're for like $1 million to $1.5 million houses around Dallas. And all of them have like 5 bedrooms and it's just a huge undertaking. So getting those up and ready in, this last couple of weeks. So I have not put the calendar together, but that is on my to-do list this week for when that's coming back.
Well, my whole intention of mine is just say, look, who are the buyers? Who's got the money? And who's got the product? And then, hey, y'all mingle together. But at the same time, my intention of it is to be able to go at some point in the night, grab a microphone. By the way, I know a lot of people If you got deals, but you don't know how to structure it, hit me up. If you got money, but don't have a place to put it, hit me up.
Yeah. No.
That's my entire attention.
And people really want that. I mean, I also have like realtors and I've got, wholesalers and contractors, and what are you looking for? And so when I meet people walking around, because I don't let anybody talk, including myself, and I look like just an assistant to somebody because I just walk around taking photos of people and saying hi, no big deal. But I just ask, what are you here for? What are you looking for?
Right.
So
see, my thing is like, I know what they're there for. They're there to structure deals. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've talked about, having, and just a good idea, especially depending on where you're having it, being able to have a separate quiet room where there's just tables set up where, hey, you want to go. I mean, we've had that at Real Estate Investor Social Club, but I mean, if you've ever been, it's packed and it's loud.
Right.
But I've had people bring contracts to that thing, and somebody, I'll run into somebody who goes, oh yeah, I wholesaled a deal at that thing the last time I was there. It was great. So I think that there's a huge place and a need for really good events like that. So, as far as, I think this sounds great.
Yeah. And it's going to be at an art gallery. Going to have open bar, cocktail waitresses.
Sounds lovely.
I actually might wear a button-up shirt.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you even own one?
I'll have to buy one.
This one doesn't count.
It wouldn't be this now. No, because it's like, again, it's at an art gallery. So I'm trying to, it's not going to be like suit and tie or anything. It's still going to be real estate people.
Right.
So you're still going to have people that look homeless. But it's going to be an opportunity for, Kristin Gerst to walk in and be glamorous.
And be glamorous?
Yeah.
Well, you know me.
Now I just got to get Capricorn to sponsor.
No, I will.
Oh, sweet. Done. You heard it here first.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm like, seriously, you're like,
That's
I
the
know
whole reason I bring
she's
it up.
good for it.
Yeah.
Oh, no. But I'm skiing that week.
Oh, yeah. Damn it.
Remember, you already hit me up for this one.
I know. We
and
already
I'm
had
like,
that conversation.
sorry. I'll be in Breckenridge all week, but I will be thinking of you at your first event.
Anyway.
From the slopes. Anyways.
So as far as, because I don't want to keep you here all day. I know you're super busy. But we could still go for a couple more minutes or 10 minutes or so or 20 minutes, whatever you want.
But for new investors out there, always focus on what you're good at and focus on one thing.
Yeah.
So if you find that you are great at finding wholesale deals, find somebody who's great at getting buyers and partner with them. Because what I found was when you're getting started in any one of those, right, you get a deal and then you sell a deal and you get another deal and then you sell another deal. It takes a team of people to stay focused, and my focus is only going to be on acquiring these things. You can accomplish so much more if you just are able to focus on one task. Mm-hmm. And then, and your whole day is not, and that is a struggle for me right now, is just time management and looking at, okay, what has to be completed first today because, I've got an expiration date on whatever's going forward. But I find that, when I'm most focused on one task and just completing that task, that, I'm more successful, everybody around, and we're doing a ton more deals. But again, buyers for things, people are like, well, how do you do that? And I'm like, I've been in this business for 15 years. So I've been eating, breathing, living, dying, sleeping, whatever, all of this real estate. And so when you do that for 15 years, I'm going to know somebody.
Well, what's interesting to me in this business, in the real estate world, is obviously when you've been around it, there's certain aspects that just come easy and there's no brainers. But if somebody was having problems or issues or questions about writing a contract or structuring a deal or finding money or finding deal or anything like that, I get not having a clue. But when it comes to, well, how do I meet someone? That one I'm like,
really?
That one but again, me and you are both naturally social, extroverted, have no problem shaking somebody's hand and having a conversation.
Right.
Whereas some people, they're petrified of that and they just can't do that.
And that's an issue. It is. And they're probably one that I would encourage to maybe start at a smaller, more intimate event. Do I bother with something where, unless it's something you told me, hey, I'd like you to show up at this, there's only going to be like 20 people in the room, but they're all, they're all very, very successful at what they do, or they're high net worth individuals. And, we just need to get some people in the mix who can talk about real estate investing. Yeah, absolutely. But I look at like meetups and I go, all right, how many people are registered? If I'm not seeing a couple hundred, or I haven't heard from somebody that several hundred showed up, I'm not gonna go bother with that one.
But is that because if you're going to be taken away from your business, your family, your social time, you want a room big enough that you can hit 50, 100, 150, 200 people at a time?
Absolutely. And I mean, it is more a time thing. I've got to choose, because it's not these aren't the only things I do. I try to, also have a life and, go out and do fun things. But like last night I was at Super Bowl party and I was on the phone in the garage for an hour and a half, negotiating a deal, and then also, getting processes in place for, these new Airbnbs, two separate businesses, and I'm sitting there taking care of it in the middle of a Super Bowl party. Again, that's not exactly living. So, and
Right.
that's being a workaholic who doesn't know how to put her phone down. And that's not good either. But at the same time, there's times when just shit has to get done.
But you love what you do.
I do love what I do. I am. And I'm addicted. And I think you know this, right?
Yeah.
I almost semi-retired. I was like, okay, I'm done. This was like June of 2012. I was like, fuck this shit. Like in real estate investing, and we talk about this, there's a lot of people you meet and it's like instantly I feel like I need to go take a shower. I'm like, ugh. Can you be any
How
slimier?
dare you?
But we all know who these people are, right? And I'm like, not genuine, full of shit, just sleazy as hell. And I'm like, oh God, and that was the way, I got screwed over a couple times and I just saw it with this, I was upset and I was jaded against the whole industry. And I'm like, I just don't want to be part of this. I'm just going to live off my note portfolio, right? I'm done with all my rentals. They were all changed into paper. I have enough to live on. This is fine. How many days did that last? One. One day, I'm like, okay, I'm all done. And then somebody called me and like, hey, I got a great house. You want to come check it out? And I was like, yeah, give me the numbers. I want to see it.
Well, I think to that point and that's what I love about the real estate niche, the world, because it is so big. There is so many opportunities that you could pivot within the business itself. Like I was never one to go in. I've been to houses, I've done property tours, I've done that, but I was never at the scale of most people that do it.
Right.
I was usually behind the scenes in 90% of my real estate career. That being said, I have no ambition of walking a house and smelling cat piss. I have no ambition of negotiating with a distressed seller.
So, one, you don't need to.
Correct.
You don't. Most people know I got caught with that wholesale deal this past September and ended up flipping it myself. And I originally wasn't going to flip that thing, but then I'm calling around. I was never going to go to that house, not once. And so I just found a realtor that was local. She went over there and she's like, hey, this isn't very bad. Carpet, paint, some appliances. You can put this thing on the market. And I was like, oh, hell. All right. So maybe I will flip this thing. Of course, it turned into a little bit more than that, but, I still made out like a bandit. I've got this one right now down in Beaumont, which it's been out there for a while now. And I'm still getting, hey, is this still available? And I haven't been able to say yes for a while because the bank that's selling it was out of New Jersey, right? They couldn't they kept telling me that the house was on this combo box. No, the whole place was like boarded up and solid. So now they just got the combo box on. Like now you can get in and see it. And I still had people going, hey, before I drive over there, do you have pictures? And I'm like, they're never going to give me pictures on this thing.
You let a combo box or a boarded up window stop you from walking the house?
Thank you. It wasn't me.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to Beaumont.
Right.
I'm not walking a house.
So me and you have the same opinion of the people that are potentially buying it.
No, so I paid.
I've broken.
this weekend.
Hypothetically,
yeah,
I've broken into more because early in my career was like the 02, 03 era.
Right.
You didn't know. I don't talk about this ever, but I probably at least. I mean, whatever.
in 05,
a ton of houses I've kicked indoors.
I used to kick them in.
Abandoned houses, you just kick them in.
Right.
Whatever.
If it, and especially HUD, hypothetically. Yeah. So 05, 06, 07, I'm buying all these houses off of like HUD.
And I'm talking about
the
HUD.gov.
houses. Right. They're vacant.
Yeah.
No, they're all vacant, right? Yeah. They're vacant. They're torn to shit anyways.
Yeah.
They don't care. And I'm like, God, the key's missing out of the box or the combo's wrong, right? And if you were back in that era and you like, there were literally like 6 different combo codes for a HUD home. So like OCN, ARV, LMN, and it was literally like 6 different ones. And anybody listening out here who was buying, a ton of these HUD foreclosures would know that back then. And so I would just try them all. And if none of those 6 worked, I'm like, okay. And I'm like, I would just stand back and I'd like drop kick that door and like just kick it in.
Because again, if you're going to spend first of all, it's a property, hypothetically, if it's boarded up, if it's distressed anyway, you're going to let a door?
No.
Like just rip a board off.
Right. But nobody would, and
that's insane to me that somebody wouldn't just take initiative and do that.
I had a lot of people. They're like, because of the way it was, it was like they took screws and they screwed in those boards everywhere. Yes, you could, but it's one of those things where I'm not there. They don't have anybody of authority there. Then it's like, I do too, and as a legal thing, it's kind of like, I saw this on, on a Facebook post or, Kristin sent me this, but how legitimate is this for me to break into this house? And so I get it, but I paid
I would push back on the term break into this house. I would like to change that terminology to gaining access.
Fine. Gaining access to, through aggressive extreme means. Yeah. No, so this weekend I was like, all right, I'm done with this. I just paid this contracting couple $50. $50. They went over the house, went in, walked the whole thing, gave me 50 photos. And I'm like, take a bunch of pictures.
Yeah.
I go, give me a list of everything that's wrong. $50. They were like, are you serious? $50 just to go do that? They're like, we do that every day, for free.
For quotes, yeah.
Just for the lead potential or to possibly get that contracting job. And I'm like, I don't want to waste anybody's time. I go $50. And you know what? They were over there within 10 minutes. It's great, and I just sent them $50. And they said, oh, we'll go to Houston, anywhere that you need anybody to look at a house. I'm like, great. So now I've got them down there.
Right.
As soon as I have another wholesale deal because a lot of times, like the one I flipped, I didn't even know what the house looked like on the outside. I had an aerial Google map of it. So I could see like the roof line. And I'm like, I don't know if this thing is cute or not. I have no idea. I'm like, but the numbers are right on paper. So
before we move on from that, just to not recap, but if you are actively looking at houses, you should always have a drill set. You should always have a hammer, and you should always have some extra screws, have a crowbar.
And don't wear 4-inch stilettos like what I wear now.
Yeah. Again, I'm not saying do anything illegal. I'm just saying,
and really the banks,
if you have permission to go, you have permission to get in there.
Right. And the banks that want to sell these, they're not local.
Right.
And they just want this thing moved, and you're not breaking into, it's not like the police are going to roll up, see that you've broken into this thing. Maybe. By that point you can just say, oh yeah, door was wide open. Well, so I come in and I'm looking around. I'm looking to buy this thing.
I'm looking. Yeah. If anybody that would ever give you lip about that, if you're like, look, I'm looking to buy this property, or I am buying this property, like, again, you may have a crazy nosy neighbor that you can't, it is what it is. But typically any kind of authority be like, okay, cool, I get that.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm not a lawyer and I'm not telling you to do anything.
No.
I'm just a guy.
Yeah, no. We're never lawyers in this. So
as far as what we've covered, what we haven't covered, what is one thing that you would really like to convey just in general?
For everybody out there,
Sure.
looking to get
In life.
started or,
Just whatever. Take that-
struggling in your everyday business and you can't figure out why,
It could be like, hey, start Botox when you're 20. I don't know.
yeah, you really, actually it's after 21.
Okay.
The wrinkles,
Got
your
it.
face starts regenerating. So definitely go inject yourself with Botox right away. No, yeah, wear sunscreen. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, as far as, business wise, yeah, focus on one thing, until you get your processes in place. I think you see a lot of failure, a lot of bankruptcy, a lot of people that just can't make it go when their focus is too split.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a fear of mine as well, that I take on too much and don't cover it.
Yeah. Rob, thank you. Flashlight, because we were talking about our kit.
Oh, flashlight. That
Always
is
have a flashlight.
always have a flashlight.
That is so true. I
Which is
forgot about
great, now with the iPhones,
that. And if you're in
sits
Texas,
on it.
probably handgun too. But
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have my concealed carry. I should. It's crowbar. Crowbar's frightening enough. Me, crazy eyes,
Yeah.
running at you screaming with a crowbar, you're going to run.
So this is kind of, here's a question for you that has been kind of like my question, that it's a Tyler question. If you were, who would play you in a movie about your life?
Ooh, good one. God. I always loved Kate Hudson.
Yeah.
If she got a boob job. She had, because she's got to have bigger boobs. But she's lovely. I used to get, everybody used to say I look like? Alicia Silverstone. Like, this is like 20 years ago, like when I was in college. Remember her?
Mm-hmm.
The Clueless chick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to get that one all the time. Like, people thought I was her a couple times. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. I don't think I look like her, but.
So either Kate Hudson or.
I love Kate Hudson. You got to find those blondes. Reese Witherspoon.
There you go.
Reese Witherspoon.
There it is. Legally blonde.
Legally blonde.
Yeah, been to
Legally
snap.
blonde. Very, sassy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as getting a hold of you, what's the website? What's your email? Phone number? All those things.
CapricornMortgageInvestments.com. info@CapricornMortgage.com gets to me. It's the easiest one. And you can reach me at 972-679-3120.
Tommy, final thoughts?
She named 3 of the same women.
I named 3 of the same women.
He's saying the 3 actresses you said are all the same person.
Oh, are they? Doppelgangers?
I guess.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Great insight, Tommy.
Yeah, that was
You're
great.
welcome.
All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for everybody watching, listening, commenting. If you like it, tune in more, subscribe, all those things, and we'll see you next time.
I'm a subscriber.
Woohoo!